And we're live. Greetings. It is MOOC office hours. I'm Sam here. We're in Makers Academy in London, who are providing the space for the event. Many thanks to them. I'm joined by about 8 Code Collective / MOOC people here with me in the room in London, and we've now got a full house of people around the world, at least as far away as Russia and Brazil and so forth. And so here we are. So, I mean, this represents a sort of a collision of a number of events we've been running for about a year now, various remote pair programming extravaganza events at this time on a Wednesday. It's 6:30 p.m. UTC +1 here in London. And this is sort of, you know, I've combined this now with the MOOC office hours. Now, in the last run of the MOOC in fall 2013, I ran regular office hours during the, each week, and I recorded it and basically took questions from the audience about, the MOOC, about anything that's going on. I'm particularly keen to kind of like get into pair programming here if we can, but really yeah, in the first instance, I guess I want to facilitate, everybody and anybody on the MOOC side. I think everybody knows what we're talking about with the MOOC. It's the edX 169.1 course. It's been running now for a year. I'm the course facilitator. Yeah, there we go. Now, so I guess the key thing just in the background is, so some of you may have questions, some of you may have code issues or what have you. The thing to do is get set, like I think what we found in the previous MOOC office hours, is often say, oh, so I'm having a problem with, Homework 0 Part 2, and I'm saying, okay, let's see your code. And they're like, okay, I'm going to start up the VM, and then that takes like 15 minutes to actually get to the code. So if you've got something that you want to show or share during the meeting, get that set up and ready to share. People here in person, I've asked them to connect to me on Skype so they can paste me links. Particularly if you've got code in Cloud 9, this c9.io, that means we'll be able to like all share and play around with it together in a sort of a pair programming kind of style. And for those of you who are out there in the Hangout, I'm kind of looking up, I'm projecting the Hangout up onto a big screen here. If you've got stuff, again, start your VMs, get your stuff in C9. But so we might want to do, actually I do this normally at the beginning of these things, is practice our screen share. So some of you will be experienced Hangouters, and will be like, oh yeah, screen share, I can do that. And others of you, this maybe, who knows, this is the first Hangout. I'm going to like basically talk through getting set up for the screen share, which I think is basically the revolutionary thing. I mean, much as it's lovely to be able to see my fantastic hat, I mean, that's great. I mean, it's now my hat's being broadcast around the world. Wonderful. I mean, who's not excited about that? Maybe only me. But so I think the key thing really is this being able to do the screen share. So I can see already some, Sam Pretty, who's of course one of our senior TAs, is well ahead of me. But so if you mouse over to the left-hand side of the Hangout, second or third button down, you'll see kind of like a green monitor with like a white arrow in it. I'm going to click that, and then what am I going to share here? I guess if I'll share the top screen here so that everybody can see what's going on. I'm going to get like a little infinite regress effect there. And I think if I move that out of the way, we'll see the chat there. I'm going to bring the Hangout down onto my other machine here, and I'm going to go up. So this actually, so for some of the MOOCers out there, you might not be familiar with Code Collective. That's a London-based group that Johan Sennett runs, and I help out with. And yeah, this is going to be every Wednesday night. You can come and throw eggs at me in person because whatever issues you have with the MOOC. Yes, and what we're going to do here? Yeah. So there we go, and I guess let's just go and see like the front course page so we all know. So if anybody's here for a different MOOC other than Engineering Software as a Service, you're in the wrong room. Let's see if other people are doing screen shares. I see that we've got, yeah, just Sam Pretty. Does anybody else who's out there in the MOOC, sorry, in the MOOC I say, in the Hangouts, that's Greg or John, do you want to just practice screen sharing? You're not required to. I never want anybody to do anything they feel uncomfortable with. But just if you want to get help and input from me on any code issues or VM issues or what have you, then yeah, you do want to do the screen share. I see. Oh, Vitaly there's got his screen share up. I can see. Yeah, we'll bring this up there. More infinite regress, but Vitaly is looking at the quiz 0 thing there. So yeah, and I'll move this backwards and forwards. I guess. Yeah. So let's kind of get queued up then. I mean, I could clearly just talk all night, although that wouldn't necessarily be much fun for you lot. Does anybody have any specific questions about the MOOC, the VM, the quiz, the Homework 0 that's been released that they want to address at this stage?
I've had a bit of a look, and I've seen the stuff like through the Ruby, but I'm not almost sure where the first step is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, maybe that's a reasonable place to start, actually. Let's kind of go into the MOOC and see, how we intend. I mean, this is one of the things in general with any kind of interface. We set all this stuff up, and we have an imagined path that you're going to take through it, but it's not necessarily obvious to the people coming in. I mean, edX have provided, I mean, I think it's absolutely fantastic that their entire framework is open source. It's a huge service that they're doing to the world by making this available. But it's also, it's also work in progress, and so, some things can be confusing. I guess, sensibly, in order for me to access it, it's going to force me to log in. Okay, well, that is logged in. And then I can just get to the courseware here. Yeah, so here we go. So this is the courseware. People out there in the Hangouts, if you want to kind of flag particular issues that you want to talk about, do put that in the group chat in the Hangout. And, as you think of stuff, that comes up that you're interested in discussing with the group or things that you're stuck on, we'll get to that as we come to it. And maybe just as I talk through the flow of the course, these things will come up. Yeah, just checking what we've got. I'll just make the font a little bit bigger on there. So this is the MOOC. Your default landing page is this course info, where we get, we can basically post little things here. A new feature of the MOOC this year is that we can now do batch emailing. So some of you might have received an email from us. What I'm tending to do is to, basically once a week, as we release the new material for that week, I'll first post it into the course updates and news section here, and then subsequently I'll do it once I make sure that the grammars are good and I haven't made some awful mistake, as sometimes happens. I'll then paste that out, send that out to people as email. We've got, the first key thing is we've got this series of navigation tabs across the top. We've got various things in here. I guess the key one is the courseware. So this courseware link will take us into kind of the main beast, as it were. I guess I will switch from my staff view to the student view. Okay, and it often does that. So I've got like a view of all the courses coming up in there, so student view. So we kind of start. So based on actually suggestions from students previously, we kind of created a week -1 to kind of get set up with the class, and so that will be the default. That would be, I think, the default starting place here. And we just sort of, particularly because getting set up with the virtual machine for the class can be a little bit involved, we created this, and it basically said, okay, so letting you know the first thing you want to try and do is get set up with the VM. And the other thing is, we've got this kind of quite accelerated teaching of Ruby through the course, and the course, you're not required to know any Ruby in advance of the course. We do require that you know some object-oriented programming. But I think, and I did, so I teach a very similar course to this at Hawaii Pacific University, which is where I'm a professor myself. Of course, David Amando from UC Berkeley. But what I always have my students do at HPU is run through this Codecademy Ruby track, and so I've recommended that to everyone. Many of you will have done that, and so we've just got these are not graded homeworks. They're just to check, to try and provide you with a little, rather than leaving it to, okay, I've got the homework. The homework 0 is due tomorrow. Right, I'll start and try and get started up with the VM. And based on previous instances with the class, previous instances of the class, we found that being, kind of something that people will get stuck on. So we're just trying to get this beginning bit to get going. Now Vitaly's just making a point about the IRC chat on each page annoying him, and it does annoy some people. We've got this IRC chat that's kind of built into every page to try to give people an option to ask questions immediately. We did spend a lot of time making it so that it was collapsible, and we were very pleased with that, and we had that working in our TA training course. And then just before we rolled this out, edX made a bigger change on their servers, because this is kind of this is custom, this IRC embed is custom to our course, and it broke our, collapsible thing, and I haven't been able to fix it, and so...
one more thing.
Yes.
There is a Grease Monkey script, Mr. J. Bill wrote, and the link for that is in the group chat if you want to look.
Well, I was going to... yes, thank you, somebody. Yeah, thank you for putting that in the group chat. I was going to come on to that. So I guess, putting that in context. So as the courseware will go on through, and we'll look at the different things that we're doing for the course. We've got all this variety of little other they're not really tabs, aren't they? There's horizontal navigation at the top. The key one is the discussion. We've dropped the old-style edX discussion, and we've actually got a whole Stack Exchange instance purely for us. So Stack Exchange is one of the people who make Stack Overflow. We're working closely with them to manage this. So yeah, if you do have any, this is a great, IRC is great potentially to get instant feedback. But if you've got sort of a complex question, if the IRC chat, there's not someone there to help you. We do have TAs monitoring both the IRC chat and the forum. But so I think if we put chat into there, one can, a common question is how to disable the course chat room. And so there are some scripts that you can do to do it. I feel very bad for anybody who's irritated by the chat. I think the value of having it there, and people, for people who get totally lost in what on earth is going on, to be able to ask an immediate question offsets to a degree the irritation that some people, and so, yeah, no, I think that people, yeah, I mean, I think we definitely have reports of people liking it and not liking it. I want it to be, I mean, also, this is the first time that we've run the chat from we've got 20,000, we've got over 20,000 students signed up for this run of the course. This is the first time that we've had the IRC chat embedded for everyone from the beginning. The server has gone down a few times. I have been doing hand-to-hand combat with setting the file descriptor limits for Twisted, which is the back-end thing that's our QWeb IRC thing. I mean, it all seems very calm on the surface there. Let me tell you, there's an ongoing fight to keep all of this running. And so if it's ever not working, and if it's ever irritating, my sincere apologies. We keep on iterating the course. We want to keep on making it better. Please, come and we've got like lots of open source projects for making these things better. Come and get involved and get experience with a real open source project. Anyway, so I've done a lot of, shall I pause? Yeah, so Vitaly's saying IRC is great, just don't want on every page. Yes, no, I think we would, I think we certainly want to support switching it off at will. What we really want to do is integrate the whole functionality into edX so that it's got end-to-end testing, and we don't, functionality that we deliver with the chat isn't broken when edX, upgrades some other aspect of their server. So maybe I'll pause for breath there, and I mean that's any questions so far, particularly from people here in the room.
Again, I've gone through those steps. Also, can you go through the different weeks without having done the click and check things that you've checked? I wasn't sure.
Okay, yeah, I mean, so in week -1, I mean, basically, as the material is released, there's no requirement that you follow it in any particular order. It's kind of, there's our recommended order. I should have brought a copy of the textbook with me. Anyway, that's another story. I've got it on Kindle here actually, but oh, okay. Oh yeah, if you want to pop it, particularly if you've got the latest version, because I actually haven't seen it. I haven't seen a physical copy of the latest version.
I mean, just bought it, so.
Has it got the? Well, you've got there the second beta edition, so that's actually not the very latest version. But we'll talk about the textbook in a minute. Yeah. Anyway, that's good physical cue. Sorry, somebody in the Hangout was asking something.
Yeah, this is Trevor.
Hey, Trevor.
That was a question I had. Hi, how are you doing? So the edX tutorial, sorry, there's a progress link, whatever, on the page, right? And that's the question I had because, I got a 0 out of 1 for the edX tutorial, which I didn't need. So I was wondering if that was going to affect the grade or not, but it said practice next to it.
Yeah, okay. No, let's just talk about the progress thing. Yeah, that won't. There are the course things are split into things that do not impact your final grade and things that do. And so on the progress page, as you can see here, like things that appear in the graph, those are things that actually affect your final grade, as it were, on the course. And then also, like you notice here, it says like getting set up with software for the class. It says practice scores. So whether you, I mean, you may have had the VM installed from previous class. Actually, I would say if you have the VM installed from previous class, do upgrade to the latest VM. But you may have already completed the Ruby Code Academy, and so you're like, hey, well, that's nothing to do with me. I've done that. You can check these or not as you choose. That they don't really have a meaning. That my intention from adding those in was merely to just sort of prompt people to say, look, it's week -1. Let's do it this week, rather than leaving it to the last minute. But of course, everybody's perfectly free to leave things to the last minute if they so choose. We're not making anything compulsory. So that's the progress thing. Thank you, Trevor. Good question there about the progress. Yeah, so those things, and so we can see there, if we look in, edX tutorial, again, practice scores, anywhere that it says practice scores in this progress, these are things that are not going to impact your final grade and your ability to get a certificate. Yeah. Okay. Now, yes, and John was asking there, yeah, what's the deal with the ordering? Yeah. Do I have to complete to move on? I mean, I would say sensibly, if you've, you've got a sort of situation here in that if you come to the course a little bit late, and let's say, you know, the deadline, the deadline for the first homework 0, which is the first graded homework, is still some weeks away. Actually, let me, on that note, emphasize the syllabus tab, which is a great place to look to get information about the entire course. We have got the release dates, well, we've got the release dates of the lectures in here. This is because all the lectures are released on a Friday. And the due dates for the quizzes and the homeworks it's always due on a Thursday. And so we also have a Google Calendar for the class. So we can see here that homework 0 is not actually due until Thursday. Thursday week. So a week tomorrow. So you know, we're still at the stage where, you know, if you've just joined the course and you're just getting set up and you're like, right, oh, I've missed week -1 week, you haven't really missed anything yet. You've still got time to do. I'd certainly say that starting with the Code Academy Ruby track is a great place to start. That's like a really gentle introduction to Ruby. There's sort of, you know, degree of immediate feedback there, and you know, you can sort of get set up with the VM. I'm starting to feel actually the Cloud 9 actually might be several. I mean, we still haven't completely tested. I personally haven't tested every single homework on the course to guarantee that it all works on Cloud 9. Other students in the previous run of the course, there was at least 1 or 2 who said that they did everything on Cloud 9. In terms of the VM potentially being kind of a heavyweight install that can take you into a relatively unfamiliar environment. I see some people running the VM in the background there. You know, I'm hoping in the future that we'll move to like maybe making Cloud 9 the official support. I mean, the thing is, there's many different. This is the other thing here. If we go, we've got the online resources and VM setup info. We've got this page in the book website on all the different ways to get set up with the bookware, because you do, you know, to do the homeworks, it doesn't matter so critically for the first couple of Ruby intro homeworks, but as we get onto more Rails and Cucumber and RSpec stuff, you do want to be working with the same libraries that we're grading you against. You don't want to kind of be off in the world. And so, I mean, you can be trying to install all that stuff on your local machine, and, you know, on Windows or OS X or whatever have you. The idea is that by having everybody, you know, run with a kind of an Ubuntu instance, whether that's in EC2 or on Cloud 9 or in Vagrant or in a, you know, VirtualBox VM, the idea is that everybody's running on the same OS with the same libraries and the same stuff, so that you are, if you're encountering an issue, it's because of some problem with your, you know, the Ruby syntax you've used, rather than it being some random library that, you know, who knows whatever about the platform you're on. Yes?
So for the grading, it's not essential that it's accessible to the public. It just needs to be the up-to-date, similar library, the same libraries that you're using. So I've got the VM installed, and I've got the AWS.
Oh, okay, you've done that as well, right?
Just because I want to play it.
Sure, yeah, totally.
So does it matter which one I do?
No, not at all. Not at all. Whatever you're most comfortable with. Yeah, so they're both example. John Rodriguez in the group chat there is saying Nitrous.io is way better than Cloud 9, and Nitrous.io is also a good option. And you know, we used Nitrous.io a lot in the past. Actually, I have found Cloud 9 for some of our larger projects to be quite slow, and I used Nitrous.io and Cloud 9 both, and I kind of preferred Nitrous.io. But it was students in the full 2013 course who said, "Oh wow, we managed to do the entire thing on Cloud 9." And actually, I think for relatively simple projects, which even the most, well, certainly for 1.6.1, the legacy code in 1.6.2 is another story. But I think that Cloud 9 seems to me to work particularly well for the simple early homeworks, as we'll maybe see a little bit later on in the session. But so, yeah, I mean, we also mentioned, I mean, I think what I really want to move towards is to move away from this current, you know, bookwork thing. I want to move all of the instructions for installing into GitHub. And so I would really like to have a community-supported instructions for, like, ultimately, you know, if the community finds a better way to run the VM and get the homeworks done or whatever, then people can do pull requests and say, look, this is, or update the wiki, and just, we've got kind of a bit of a bottleneck here that I'm hoping to get over. Right. So that's that. I mean, just on this page, there's also we've got another page that's on the Bookware site, which has got links to various other resources. I guess I mentioned them in the textbook, Fox and Patterson one. You ideally, I would say, the key thing to do is to get the Kindle version, because the Kindle version, I think actually, well, the Kindle version also comes free with the print edition, so maybe you've got the Kindle.
Yeah, I just started on that one.
Yeah.
Is that the case for the UK, actually, that the Kindle is free with things like
I think it depends on the region, because I didn't see that option when I bought it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that I am not 100% clear about that. I would say, I mean, what you will get if you get the Kindle version, and actually the Kindle version is not available in every part of the world. I think we had an issue with one student who was it Malaysia? Or Indonesia, and apparently the Kindle is not available. The Kindle, you know, I mean, I'm using the Kindle reader for Mac here, and of course you don't actually need a physical Kindle device for your Kindle copy of the textbook. I think certain countries in the world, including Indonesia, the Kindle is not available. If you cannot get the Kindle version, get in touch with me. I can get you a watermarked PDF copy for your own personal use. If you really can't get the Kindle thing, I can set that up for you. That's what we did for the student in Indonesia. But the great thing about having the Kindle is, having got this one, you will have free updates for life. Every 3 months or so, or hopefully even faster, we are rolling out fixes and updates and new materials into this thing. And so even the very latest paper copy of the textbook will get out of date pretty soon. So that I think the Kindle, and again, it's not every region, but you can get $10 of free AWS credits with buying your book. So in principle, if you buy the Kindle edition for $9.99, and we give you $10 of free AWS, so I'd say this, I think, is one of the best deals on Tesla ever. You'll be paid 1 cent to get
sure that works in the UK, actually.
I haven't confirmed that, but anyway, the key thing is that the textbook is not compulsory. I mean, the textbook is, we kind of like recommend it, but part of the reason for providing this list of all these alternate resources is,
it's pretty useful reading. It's very easy to get to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the particular thing for me, I mean, there's so many people at so many different experiences levels coming into the course. I think the thing that I would say is, for example, when we get onto homework 2, which is the Rails intro homework, if you're already a little bit familiar with Rails and you kind of know your way around Rails, I think you can do that homework without needing to reference the textbook. You can just drop in and do it. If you've never seen Rails before, I think doing the walkthrough in Chapter 4 of the textbook is like the perfect, because basically in Chapter 4 of the textbook, it builds the Rotten Potatoes app that the homework for the Rails intro homework 2 is actually on. So you kind of learn the not just, I mean, you could do we've got other Rails tutorials available online like this. I mean, excellent ones. I think Michael Hartle's Rails tutorial is really good. But the big advantage of doing the textbook is it's going to be doing it with the same app that the homeworks are on. So anyway, right. So yeah, I'll pause for breath. Any other questions that pop up for anybody out there in the cloud or anybody here in the room?
I have a question. So you recommended to do a Code Academy tutorial to Ruby, which doesn't have Rails. So I guess to do this for us, if you've never done anything with Rails before, is it still?
No, I think not having done anything with Rails before is, we hope, is fine. In as much as the course gives a very accelerated introduction to Ruby. So we've released. So I mean, in answer to that question, I'll carry on through the sequence. So kind of, if you'd come in, 2 weeks ago before we'd got completely started, you might have done these background steps, as I know many of you have done. Then we released week 0. We had welcome videos from myself, from David Armando. There was the second half of the Code Academy was due, and then we also recommended doing various things related to version control, in particular Git, and there's a Git immersion tutorial. Because this thing, I mean, is just, I love Git. It's just awesome. I spent a lot of time with other version control systems in my past lives. Git is very powerful. You can get painfully impaled on it, but it is super, super, super useful and really valuable to understand it conceptually before you get onto some of the other aspects of the course. Like we'll be doing, for example, we'll be deploying a Rails app to Heroku, and that's done over Git. So understanding Git well in advance, I think, is really, really handy. But so then we come into week 1 here, and so basically we've got here an overview by me explaining. I mean, so I think I try to explain some of these things, the course organization and so on, here in this overview video. And then we've got lectures from Dave and Armando. Now these were recorded in full 2013, and this is the 3rd time that Dave and Armando have recorded the course. Each time they're to make it better. This is, I mean, I think Dave's got a great introduction there, talking about how software engineer is the #1 job in the US, and you know, it's like, you know, but isn't it ironic that there, you know, there's these software disasters, and you know, what is software engineering about, and so on. So that's just an overall introduction thing. One of the reasons I put an extra overview in there is that although Dave and Armando are thinking about the MOOC, they've also got a room full of 200 Berkeley students, and so some of the references in the videos might not make perfect sense because they're talking to the. So I try and explain that in that overview video. That's why the overview video is worth watching. And then so basically each week there's going to be each Friday now going forward. There's going to be 2 of these little chunks, you know, on 2 themes. So introduction to software engineering there, and then here we've got now plan and document versus agile, which is the more stuff from Dave about these 2 approaches to software engineering, which are the big kind of, so agile development you might have heard of. Plan and document has become the name for waterfall and spiral and these other techniques, and the course really focuses on trying to teach agile development, but one of the things that is particularly that David and Armando have focused on as they've revised it is trying to show what the contrasts are between plan and document approach and the agile development. And they're not saying agile development is perfect and that's what you should do in every situation. What inspired me when I first got involved with the course with David and Armando was the way in which, when they were, for example, when they were talking about the model view controller pattern as part of the Rails framework, they didn't just say model view controller. They said, oh, but also there are these other patterns in Sinatra and so on. And I think they work hard to try and show not just here's a way of doing it, but here's one way of doing it, and that maybe works in this situation. And here's some alternative ways of doing it that, if your constraints were different, you might use. And I think that's really fantastic. We then go into here. I think that, I mean, I'll just explain one thing here. Where it says here, like ESAS chapter 1.2, 10.7, that's referring to the chapters in the very latest, the latest edition of the textbook is 1.01. So these lectures correspond to those parts of the textbook. So, I mean, I think everybody's a bit different about this. Like, some people would like rather just watch the videos. Some people don't want to watch any videos, they just want to read the textbook. Other people want to read the textbook first and then watch the videos, or the other way around, or what have you. We have got in the syllabus here, there is kind of like a general guide, and it might not be completely perfect because of the Amanda keeps changing the positions of the chapters. But, I mean, again, if there's anything wrong in the course, tell me. I mean, or at least ideally, not just you can tell me in person, obviously, at these meetings, but if you could paste it into here, our discussion, we'll try and get it fixed as soon as possible. We've got a huge group of volunteers, all trying to do our best. If there are things that are broken and not working, or errors. But so the idea is, as in the syllabus here, you can, if you want to read, you know, on your Kindle or your Dead Tree thing, whatever they are these days, these are the corresponding chapters. I will have to try and update those and make sure that they're exactly correct. We're battling lots of things about it. Anyway, so that was that. We're talking about textbook. Yes, there we go. We've got the thing in brackets, in parentheses at the end there. If that's confusing, really, that's the time, or there's the complete time. So, for example, if we've got this section here, like this is software development versus agile. So we've got an initial video. So that's which is 8 minutes and 44, and that'll be Dave talking about that. I personally watch everything on ×2, just because I think that's fun. And I don't have a lot of free time, but you know, you can adjust. So do notice you can take the speed up and down. There's also closed captions, and that has a really nice feature. We don't have closed captions on absolutely everything, and sometimes the closed captions are not perfect, but you can click into the point in the video, and it jumps. If you click on these things, it will jump you to that position in the video.
And it's easy to watch you in half.
Indeed, and that's, you know, absolutely. That, I mean, some people say I should just slow down, and I say we do have the half speed option. So it's, yeah, I kind of, it's, yeah, I'm.
Can we do some pair program?
We certainly could. Yes, I mean,
We've had this video before with you. I'm enjoying seeing the live version.
Right, but we can know absolutely. Let's get into the pair programming. I was just going to mention, you've got these practice multiple choice things here. You've got the explanation video at the end. Yes, absolutely. And then so it goes on. So we've got Dave talks about pair programming. I talk about how we do pair programming and remote programming in the course. There's this research study that we're hoping that people will allow us to analyze their videos so we can improve the experience or analyze videos of them doing pair programming. And then so Armando introduced, so this is accelerated. He goes very, very fast through like Ruby, here's Ruby, and so the first homework, so the homeworks, so the lectures are released on Fridays, the homeworks come out on a Sunday, and yeah, so here we are. First homework. We don't require you to read chapter 3 of the textbook. We're interested to know if you did before you take the homework. But so yeah, let's come on to homework 0 there. We've got the video of me me pairing with Thomas on Cloud 9. There's also us using Git Pong to pair it on the VM. I've also added in the help video that I had from last year and so on. Maybe we should start, unless anybody else has got, unless anybody's got any other general questions, we could start looking at these homework assignments. What do people say?
I've tried to set up a Google Hangout for the room, separate from this. However, I haven't been able to invite anyone. I'm not sure why. Is there a trick to inviting people?
The thing is, to invite people, you have to be connected to them on G+ already. Which is, I think you can in principle. I mean, the thing to do is if you wanted to make that available to people in this room, and also Google has this thing, as does edX, of having these URLs which are so user unfriendly. I mean, you could,
don't worry about it.
Yeah, but you could paste that link into Skype, and I could sort of put it up and.
Yeah, accept Skype.
I think I certainly was trying to accept lots of people on Skype. What was your name?
Mark.
Mark K. Spring. Yeah, we're it's yeah.
And now, what am I supposed to?
Well, if you create another Hangout, you could. I mean, I guess I would say I don't think that we necessarily need another Hangout here in order to do pair programming on this problem. So what we could just use, we could use what could we use? We could use the Cloud9, which I started using with Thomas. I'm not getting any additional questions from the people in the MOOC. I guess there's general agreement. It's time to look at this bit of this homework thing. So, oh, go on.
Could I ask a question about the pair programming, or would you wait? Would you like me to wait until after you talk about the first assignment here?
Do you want to? Well, now you've piqued my interest. I mean, maybe I'll put the question. I'll answer the question afterwards. But do ask me a question about the pair programming.
Well, I'm a believer now. I did it today. It was the first time I was a little bit skeptical, but I joined one, and there were 3 of us working on the assignment. It actually went extremely well. We all had 3 different solutions to each 3 section and compared and worked through. The only thing is no one really recorded it. I have a brief segment. So my question was, what is the preferred format you want us to share it with you on that box for the URL?
Yeah, I mean,
suggestions for that.
Well, I'm so pleased to hear that went well for you. That's great. I mean, yeah, so we're set up here. We've got this submit URL to the pairing video. Basically, at the end of the day, we don't have the capacity to go through and check video by video that everybody has submitted precise pairing videos of the kind that we would love to see. And so, I mean, I do this with my HPU students, and I've done the same study with this. We basically, I say to them, if you couldn't get a pairing video or it didn't work or what have you, a solo of yourself soloing on the code or a video diary, we'd love to see that. Some people, this has come up, they say they don't have access to YouTube or G+. I mean, a video hosted on on Dropbox and whatever would be just fine. If anybody has any concerns about privacy or anything, then just submit a URL to a text document telling us how you felt about the assignment in text and why you like or don't like pair or solo programming. But so ultimately, this box will accept any link.
I see. Right, it went very well. There were 3 of us that were actively participating, and we just rotated between talking, driving, and adding test code. So I thought it went very well. Hopefully we'll get together for the next 2 assignments. But
that's great to hear. Now, were you on Cloud9 or?
Yeah, we set it up on Cloud9, but interesting, you guys had mentioned Nitrous. The two guys that did it,
Yeah.
one of the guys thought that Nitrous might work better, so I think for our next one we're going to try that. I'm not familiar with either environment. I just logged in and shared and wrote. I was doing some of the driving and some of the talking, but it went extremely well. Like I said, we all shared different solutions.
Yeah.
The only thing I guess I would comment on is that I don't think I would have gotten as much out of it if we had not all at least worked on the homework beforehand. In other words, I don't think it would have been a good way to actually start the homework.
No.
But since I think had most of it done already, or basically able to share and work on different solutions together, so that seemed to be actually very useful, and I picked up a few. I think we all learned something from it. So.
Yeah. So I mean, let's maybe we can talk more about the remote. There's so much there I'd love to get into, but I think people here are itching to just kick Ruby code around. So let's actually. So I've got this is actually the same test instance of Cloud9 that I did in the video, the Cloud9 pairing with Thomas, where we drove this sort of doing my own hand-rolled test-driven thing for the first part of Homework 0 Part 1, and this is where we got to. But so what we could do right now is, Greg, come back to me if I fail to follow up on all the excellent points that you were making there. But yeah, I think for some people who maybe haven't, you've obviously had the experience there with Cloud9. Some people have maybe not seen it before or seen how it works. Let's get into that. So I've kind of given away the answer to, or at least one of the answers that you could possibly have to Homework 0 Part 1. Let's go back to Homework 0 Part 1 here and see what we remind ourselves. Because I'm sure we've all studied this in quicker. Let's remind ourselves, the first part is define a method sum, which takes an array of integers as an argument and returns the sum of its elements. For an empty array, it should return 0. And so we're not even doing any classes here. This is just pure Ruby. This should be relatively straightforward, relatively simple if you've completed the Ruby Code Academy tutorial. But so one of the things that I did here that I think maybe not so obvious, but what I'll actually also do here is, so this is Cloud9, for those who haven't seen it before. You can see me and Thomas were on there. So Vitaly, who I think is out in the cloud, and Andrew and Sean there, because I created this instance, I can grant read-write access to this instance for Vitaly, for Andrew, and for Sean. And if anyone else wants the ability to type into this window, I hope I'm sharing the right screen. I think there we go, yes, then just you can go to c9.io/transact./test. And I'm just really glad that isn't like an 18-digit hash, because you can type it. But I have pasted that into Skype for people. Yeah. So Vitaly's just saying he tried pair programming on homework 0. It's interesting. Don't know if I've enough time to do pairing on every other homework. Indeed. I think the funny thing with pairing is that it can have mixed effects. In as much as in the short term it can slow things down, in the long term it can actually speed things up. So anyway, you have to see what works for you. If you can't pair program, at the end of the day, you won't be penalized. You may find counterintuitively that it actually saves time in the long run. So you need the Wi-Fi password. It's on the wall there. Makers welcome with the capital W.
Sam, to get that blue icon up in the top right, why don't you pay for Cloud9?
I'm not paying for Cloud9, so I don't think so.
What trick do you do for that?
That, I think, just means that this is my workspace. So that takes me back to dashboard there.
So no, the
blue,
the 3 people.
Oh, the 3 people. Yeah, I get that. I think in this workspace, because it's my workspace, I'm the one that controls who has access to it. If you created your own workspace, you would potentially have that icon there. But have you created another workspace that's different from this one? Okay. Yeah, this one does. I have noticed that if I click X here, that this disappears completely, and that's not necessarily a good thing. And this is the thing. I don't know Cloud9 well enough to say. I think there is. I'll find it. It's one of these view things in here. Yeah. I think I just saw it. They're .panels members. Okay. So one thing that might happen here, I'll maybe decrease the size of that. The people coming on and offline tends to be a little bit aggressive. I'll keep it small like that. Anyway, we tried to do a session in Makers here where on the Wi-Fi, and I had like 15 people, and it just didn't work. Anyway, but so one of the things as well to look. Hey, somebody coming in and saying, "Hi, cheers to the cheers person who came and said." Anyway, so kind of you can watch the video of Thomas and myself designing this. We particularly, as well as, I mean, there's nothing in the homework assignment itself that says how you should implement this code, right? It's just entirely up to you. I am a big, strong advocate of test-driven, and much as whatever DHH is saying about test-driven being dead, long-live testing. I mean, that's about your whole testing pyramid. Yeah, you shouldn't be driving your entire app development through test-driven unit tests. You need to have a balance of unit tests and tests as well. But we'll get onto that later. But I think it's really important to get into the habit to avoid hacking, or at least only do hacking. Hack bits of app code up when you're spiking and you know that you're spiking, right? What we did here was, even in the absence of a testing framework like RSpec, we wrote little errors that would be thrown if the behavior of the application was not as expected. And anyway, you can watch the video on that. So that was that one. Let's,
I was quite interested by that because I tested mine. So I did mine like that, and at the bottom to testing, I just had puts this.
Right, absolutely.
And I was looking visually at what came out.
Yes.
And I got tripped up by one of them where the array, not this one, but one after, where the array was just one element. And it looked like it was right, because it just printed the number on the screen.
Right.
And then it failed the assessment because it was actually an array element rather than an integer. Okay?
Yes.
So that highlights the way you do check it. It's important.
Absolutely.
To the test-driven stuff. And on the website, it talks about RSpec.
Right.
Which I've never used.
No.
And so this looked a lot simpler. But
yes.
So what's the easiest way? Because that's quite easy to tackle.
Yeah. No. This is the. I mean, I think this is the easiest way to testing, and it's often overlooked. I mean, the key thing is that a lot of testing gets done, as you say, with the put statements, or printf or system out.println or whatever language you happen to be in. And for very, very small things, that's great. Yeah, you can look at it. It's just the thing is, it's so error-prone. What you really want is an automated test that can be run independently of human intervention to ensure that the thing really is doing what you think it's doing. Because particularly, I mean, well, this is the simplest code we'll see. As we move on, things get more and more and more complex, and the complexity will kill you in any software engineering project. What you really want is automated tests that can run independently and guarantee that all the parts of the app are doing what you think they should be doing. So this is just my hand. I mean, there's other bits and pieces that you can do. I mean, I've got like a little there. I've rolled an alternate one. That's me. This is just me like throwing together bits of Ruby code to make my own impromptu testing framework. This one here, I like this because it gets you familiar with that you can throw your own errors in Ruby and you can put your own messages in there. It's a bit of a pain to have to copy over the bits and pieces from here to here and so on. And that's the kind of thing that a framework like RSpec or is it Argument or anyway the different testing frameworks, they'll kind of manage that for you. This also has the problem that, for example, this one will fail, but it will then prevent this test from running, right? Because this raise will throw a standard error.
So will we be getting to RSpec as the right way of doing it?
We will.
And we'll use some time now
to look more at
RSpec.
Well, we can do. Well, yeah, we can certainly look at. I mean, there's also we can look at the RSpec for the way that the auto. And the other thing to explain here is that how the Autograder is working and how it's using RSpec. Even though you're not writing any RSpec, it's using RSpec to grade your, as you saw from the output. But so I guess, did anybody have any questions about this section of the homework? Yes.
You mentioned inject was the advanced one. When I went to look at arrays documentation, I couldn't find inject.
Right.
Yeah. So I had the same thing.
Yes. So that's one of the things is that we linked it. So if we look at array and enumerable. So this is the thing is as I don't know if Armando's covered it yet, but Ruby has this thing called modules where you can mix in a set of behaviors into an existing class. And so, if we look down here, we can see that an enumerable can have inject. But so we don't find that in array. So yes, potentially. I mean, in some ways, like in the pairing session, that was like Thomas, who's a relatively advanced Ruby coder, just kind of like did that. And I was like, oh no, it's going to be too, oh no. Anyway.
What would you have used instead of inject?
So I think, and actually you can see us doing, we did the second, if you watch this video where we do get Pong, we use each, I think, in that. Yeah, and I mean, there's a number of different ways to do it. So yeah, we use the array each method, which is the more straightforward one. Yeah.
Why is it called advanced then? Why is it advanced because it's less typing, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. I call it advanced just because it's less obvious from here what's going on. I mean, I think that the alternative, so which is like, there we go, array each. We do array each, and I can. So I mean, then we've got that's called A, and then we could do sum plus equals A, and then we could have like here sum equals 0, and so. I mean, this, depending on what language you're coming from, this slightly longer alternative that is to, I mean, I guess in Ruby terms is, what's the word? It's, I would sort of call it less advanced because it's, you know, it's less concise, certainly. But it may also be, this may also be confusing because this is sort of a Rubyism or a functional programming. Yes, go on.
I'm just bugging into your answer to. But my first introduction to this EDX thing was the Code Collective email, the invite from like a couple of days ago. Is there a whole bunch of instructions and homework suggestions that I missed
for
this EDX thing? I've literally seen the week -1 stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this is everything that there is for this, like all of this.
Oh no! I mean, was there a whole suggested things to do?
Before today from the Code Collector point.
Yeah.
No.
To your links from
No.
Email.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure which email. You probably mean the meetup announcement.
Yes, sorry, the meetup announcement.
Yeah, I mean, basically, this was. I mean, I was planning to do these sort of office hours, shared things, what have you. Just restarting the screen share for people. Do I want this to stop? I guess I do. So last week, I was here remote peppering, as I often am on a Wednesday evening, with Johan, and because of the tube strike, the other thing that was going on had got cancelled, and I ended up setting up Johan with a VM and talking about the course, and he was like, hey, we should do a, you know, combine the thing, and that's it. So you've got, I think, all the information. I don't think you're missing anything additional about
doing the homework. Oh, good to see you again.
Good to see you again as well, yeah.
Yes. And sorry for throwing the blow up, but literally I saw the things that look at the syllabus, do some stuff. So I was on both that really steps, and I'm quite reasonably okay-ish on JavaScript, strong on other languages. But so I was just doing that very newbie stuff. I thought. Yeah,
which is
I thought these were weeks ahead, but I have no idea.
Well, no, what happened was maybe since you saw the announcement of the meetup, which maybe happened, the announcement of the meetup maybe went ahead before this week 1, like maybe at that time when it was announced, only week -1, week 0 was out.
Right.
And so week 1 was released this last Friday gone by.
Okay.
And then this actual homework 0, which some people in the room have looked at and you probably haven't looked at, or you haven't looked at yet, was released on Sunday.
Okay.
So, you know, that's kind of, I guess if we were like super duper organized, we would have announced to the meetup group and said, oh, do check out this homework 0 before you come today. But
the other stuff would have been keeping me busy. So
yeah, no, and I mean, but you don't. I mean, you know, don't feel that you have to get into this. And like I say, it's Thursday week until this is actually due. If you're, and the graders will continue to run. I mean, you know, for some people, getting the ID verified certificate in this course is really important. I mean, for others, it will be just like the process of learning. And this course will continue to be available for many, many months after the actual, you know, ID verified track, crazy what have you finishes. So.
Yeah, and I don't want to spoil other people's flow. I'm doing it very much in the
but
way rather than the
serious way. So just so you know. Okay. But so going back to this thing here, so yeah, I mean this may be less familiar to people, but so with this we're setting up a, you know, I mean I guess I didn't do a for loop in you do for loops so rarely in Ruby. I forget even, can I even do a for loop? I
guess for range, I think.
Can I just do for a in array? Is that Python? See, I forget.
I mean, that's Python, I guess.
Probably. This is the thing. I mean, you know. Anyway, but the kind of thing. Other people. This is the thing. All the people in the room and the hangout, you can type it in here in the same things as remote pair programming, sort of.
I can't. I guess.
You can't. Yeah. Well, let me just make sure that everybody's got 6 more visitors. Yes. Right. Let me grant everybody. It's going to be a. There's a word beginning with C that I won't say, but anyway. Anyway, okay, yeah. We could, yeah. Let's say it's that. So let me get rid of. I was just doing crazy stuff here. Yeah. So we can do iron array in Ruby. This is the thing is I spend almost all my time dealing with Rails and I think ironically the actual time that I spend programming in Ruby is relatively small because most of the time I'm pulling in gems and libraries of other stuff. And all of my time is spent beating with Rails and with library installation collection things and servers and just stuff and crazy. Anyway, but yes. So if you were expecting me to be like a total uber Ruby person, then there's terms page. Okay, yeah. So I think we could in principle do this. The interesting thing here is that we can play around. You can see down here. Like if I set up this is the annoying thing actually about the terminal there is that. It does, the terminal thing on Cloud9 is not shared between all the people, and it just sometimes kind of goes offline. I guess just for people who'd be interested in see what it looks like, I can go and look at the VirtualBox, which I've got running in the background there. So I've got like the IRB running here in the corner. This is like my recommended kind of setup. But, make sure you can see both the edits. I mean, like ideally, that you can see the editor and the thing and what have you. But so if we set up an array in here, and we've got like 1, 2, 3, like so, just like that. So I just typed array. A lot of people I think are using try on the command line. I should start using that. But so then we could do like sum equals 0, and we can do for a in array, and then we can do sum plus equals a, and then we can do end, and then we can say what's sum, and it's 6. So this would be maybe more, and we'll go back to that would be like the more standard kind of looping that people are maybe used to from so someone's got it on there. More Rubyistic would be go from this to go to the Ruby array each method, and then this array inject thing is even more advanced, and someone there is showing me an alternative there. So I mean, what this does inject is that basically this colon that defines the method called plus, and it sends that to each element in the array and kind of points it all together. But it's a technical term, actually. But so, for example, if we go in, the interesting thing here is if someone's done a refactoring there, I don't know who because we've got so many people here. If I now save that and run it, I will get rid of my other bit there. The nice thing about having a set of automated tests, and I'm checking the kind of corner case, actually, is run, and then basically none of them have failed. So I think it was Sam Pretty who updated that there. He's now shown. Now I didn't necessarily think of doing that. He's shown me this refactoring. I mean, this is a kind of very like hazy, crazy kind of remote programming. In the ideal thing, you're maybe with 1 or maybe 2 other people, and you're kind of working in a coherent moving back as well. I guess what I will say, actually, since we're on pair programming there, is I'll particularly recommend you to check out, and I'll keep going back to this, is these remote pair programming protocols, which I think we need to feature more in the course, which is this process of ping-pong pairing where you take it in turns, and Thomas and I were trying to do this in the videos, but so you have this sort of adversarial situation where one person is running the test, and then you swap driver navigator roles, and the other person makes it pass, and then they run another test, and then it swaps back over again. And so you're always, the danger is when you're running tests, that you're running tests that don't really properly exercise your code, and then they're useless tests. If you're doing it in that kind of adversarial situation, you've got this kind of like one-upmanship, and that's what they call it, one-undermanship, where if somebody writes like a test that's a bit weak, you basically hard-code it to make it pass, as I think Thomas and I will show. But anyway. I didn't want to see that. Let's go back over here. Okay, so I think we beat. Oh, and there's reduce. Another alternative. So we've beaten this part of the homework to a slow moving there. Any other questions related to this bit of the homework? Should we move on to another bit of the homework, or what do we fancy? I'm going to pause for breath.
Earlier, is it good to sort of start pairing through the homework yourself, or is it good to try and have a go and
No, that's an interesting question. So, I mean, and I think it was Greg who was asking this earlier on. He was saying that I think he got a lot out of that three-way pairing experience that he did because all three people had kind of spent time looking at the homework. I think it generally shows that people get the most, I think on average, people get the most satisfaction in pairing if they're at approximately the same level. The bigger the difference in the levels, the greater the challenge or the greater the likelihood that somebody will get, be dissatisfied. Although personally, I love pairing with people who are at a totally different level from me, whether they're advanced if they put up with me, or if they're, they don't know Ruby, for example. Because I think from people who are, coming in with a fresh perspective, there is still a lot to learn. I'm kind of like, there's not many power plugs in this room. Yeah. So, I mean, there's been sort of extensive research done on the pairing and so on. I would love to have kind of like a full integration between edX and, let's say, Cloud9 that would drop you automatically into a remote pairing session with somebody who we had pre-selected as being a perfect match for you in terms of ability and personality and who knows what, to like make that a fantastic experience for you. We haven't got that yet. Maybe we will do in the future. I think it's another question. Personally, I love going into a fresh problem, a new problem with people, and just start pairing as a way of doing it. I know other people hate that. They kind of like, no, I can't. I've got to like read the problem in silence to get it into my brain before I can have a conversation with you about that. And to a certain extent, you've got to work out what works for you. I think it would be probably ill-advised to jump into a pairing session having not even read the homeworks, particularly having not even watched the videos or watched the. I think it's sensible to know what you're getting into. Although the open pairing sessions, Xbox Live ranking. Yeah, one of the things we're working towards in our Agile Ventures framework for all of our members is kind of like a pair programming rating. Agile Ventures is our open source project incubator, which is basically for the last year off the back of this course. So the alumni of the course have created this Agile Ventures site, and there's many people involved, and they all do remote pair programming on open source projects for non-profit organizations around the world. So that's and what we're trying to do is that we basically every few hours we have a Scrum and pair hookup session, which is in a Hangout. And basically, I think I've paired with maybe coming up to like 500 people over the last year, all around the world. And I just love dropping into sessions. And like, the other week I was doing something with a guy in Colombia and was learning Meteor.js, and I'd never really looked at it before. And he was like, "Oh, you do this?" And I was like, "Yes, show me." And like, tell me what to do. And it was, I love it. Other people, would absolutely, would rather be fried alive. But we all have to, keep ourselves entertained. That probably is more than you wanted to hear.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
One question I had is,
yes,
especially when we start getting into Rails and stuff,
yes,
like programming.
Sure.
And then we use, like Cloud9 or whatever.
Or the VM or what have you, yeah.
But like the VM is set up with certain things. And
yes, it is.
And I just don't understand how the Cloud9 is going to have the same.
Right. The Cloud9 happens to have in its default installation the right version of Ruby, and then Rails is actually a gem. So, and I think that we've actually got, it's part of the reason that I think Cloud9 is an interesting approach. If I can find the right, it's going to be in the, if you get the skeleton for, oh, sorry, it's the wrong thing. Don't do that. We've got, what did we get down to? Yeah, Cloud9 how to. This was like a previous student wrote. This was the process for getting installed with all the right stuff for Cloud9. So in principle, it can pull it in, and then it will, because you've got the skeleton, it will pull in all the right gems.
So actually, bundle install.
So you can run bundle install in Cloud9 and get all the right things if you've got the right skeleton tool in there and so on and so forth. This is part of it. If I'd managed to check every single aspect of every assignment on Cloud9 before we'd started the course, I'd be like, hey guys, this is the way to do it. But I still haven't had time to do that with everything. So, but hopefully by the end of this course, we'll be in a position to say, we can put our seal of approval on Cloud9. Vitaly in the group is saying pair programming needs talking. Cloud9 is not good enough. I agree. Cloud9 by itself. It does have a chat here, which is largely telling us people went off and online. There was some questions in the discussion forum about, if you've got sort of your hearing disabled, you haven't got a mic, you haven't got a webcam. The Hangouts, I have to say, you don't need a webcam. You certainly don't need a webcam. That's like a, as I said, like great for showing hats, but you know, who needs it really for pair programming? Yeah, Cloud9 by itself, I think you need an audio stream. I mean, there's lots and lots of other remote pair programming solutions, and we've been investigating, like in the remote pair programming sessions over the last year, we've been trying out all sorts of different ones of them. Screen Hero is really interesting. There's Mad-Eye that can use in Google Hangout. There's Flubits. There's just, I mean, there's huge loads of alternatives, and you know, we have a whole big G+ remote pair programming community, which you can join and you know, hear about it for us. But so, for example, at the moment, I'm thinking, assuming that you've got a reasonable internet connection, at the moment, for setting up and just doing a bit of pair programming, a combination of Cloud9 and the Google Hangout is actually, you know, a pretty good default. You've then got situations where, for some people, Hangouts doesn't work or whatever. You know, if you can do like a Skype call plus the Cloud9, or you can even just do the chat or what have you. I mean, I would love there to be like a one-stop solution that said, this is the way that we can just fantastically do remote pair programming. But it's a bit like the Wild West. There's so many different solutions, and some of them will work better for other people.
Google Hangouts give you in that relationship?
With using Cloud9?
Yeah, Cloud9 seems to do it. It gives you the audio. Yeah,
it gives. But basically here, like so, Sampriti's in India, and he was able to give us an alternative in there. But you know, we could talk about it. I mean, one of the other things that we have in Agile Ventures is we also have. I should log in there. Basically, this remote pair programming kind of community that I'm involved in, we video everything that we do. So I guess it's one of the reasons.
The audio gives you recording.
Right. So. Yeah, I mean, so this is also giving scheduling, but so we run all of these Hangouts. You can see we practice not just open source, but open development in Agile Ventures, and so all of the meetings with the clients, all of the we have all these big open source projects that are built exclusively through remote pair programming, and all of it's videoed, and you know, one day we'll make a documentary, but anyway. But so the usual process, which you can see, for example, if you look at one of the pairing sessions in here, or more likely you want to go into one of the projects or whatever, is like, and as I was doing this afternoon, one on Autograders and one on local support, is I'm on Google Hangout with somebody. Actually, we're usually not using Cloud9 for our main things. We're using our own, you know, just on the metal, our systems and the screen. The big thing is, I mean, this is the thing, like, I think particularly for Cloud9 and Nitrous, also Mad-Eye, this is great when you've got a relatively simple problem and everything is contained in here. If you're doing something that involves deploying to a Rails app, so for example, like if we go to our main, let's load quickly. If we go to our main, this is local support, is our main Rails open source project. And so if we've got this, which is a directory of charities in Northwest London, if you've got something like this and you've got the code and what have you, you really need to be able to have a general screen share. You can say, oh yeah, no, I have this issue in the browser. It's here, it's this thing. And that ability to be able to point that out is huge. If you're kind of restricted purely to being in a single view like this, or Mad-Eye within it. So the Hangouts provides, but you could be using Skype Screen Share or Screen Hero. Anything that will provide you general screen share support is great for that. I think the full gamut of development. Yeah.
And ultimately, I guess you could use
And Teammate is becoming also very popular.
Yeah, Teammates we're using a lot. I regularly, I don't use Teammates so much myself, but we've got one guy that we collaborate with elsewhere in the UK. He's a relatively slow connection, and he uses Teammate to share his just the ASCII. He uses Emacs, and he just shares the thing. And one of the things that we can do in for the weeks going forward, as well as looking at the homeworks, is I can demo other remote pair programming things, and we can laugh at how I create them. Yeah. All right. Yes. Let's do that. Let's go and look at the next homework question. So now we've got define a method max to sum, which takes an array of integers as an argument and returns the sum of its two largest elements. For an empty array, it should return 0. For an array with just one element, it should return that element. And I guess we're sort of asking you to upload a single file here. So the way I would, maybe we can just start this with me. So I always like to start with the corner cases to define like the basic functionality. So one of the key things that I love to do is to copy that. Let's grab. Let's pop that in there. Yeah, well, you all have access to this, so we can take turns with the people here and so on. There's this one here. Yes. Type that into your browser computer, and you'll be good. Okay. Right. So, and I'll just make that go away. Purple. Got it. Okay. And more. And more. And more. Okay. Right. So I mean, I think one of the key things is about getting all the things that you're working on. What you really want to avoid, I think, whenever you're anything, is having to switch backwards and forwards between multiple screens. So if you can have the description of what you need to do, the tests, and the thing, the app code up visible at the same time, that's a huge win. So we've got define a method max to sum, which takes an array of integers as an argument, returns the sum of its two large elements. For an array element, it should return that element. So I could start with, for example, raise. I'll have to know this in a minute. Unless, and so what is this? This is going to be max to sum, and so max to sum is going to take an argument, an array with this I have with just one element, and then I'm going to do, so that should be, it should return just that element. So maybe we can agree that this is a little test case for this corner condition. Does that seem reasonable? Yes, it's So we can then run that. I didn't save it. Run that, and then down here. Let's bring that up. Ah, the Kindle's being a 10 right. And so that is, by the look of it, not failing, which I find. So this is the other thing: is you always want to make sure your tests fail, right? Are they really testing what you think they're testing, or are they not?
Well, I suppose the first one was nothing to report.
Indeed, but so, which is a reasonable place to start, and I think now I think I just haven't saved it and I rerun it. We're now getting this error message down at the bottom here, right? And so depending upon how one of the methods that we can use for remote prep or for prep programming in general is this kind of change the message. So, and that's particularly if you're feeling your way forward, that's a reasonable point to change. Now, I guess here we maybe need to, because there's like about 15 people in here. So, assuming that we all understand this error message, can we work out some way of electing one person out of our big group who's gonna who wants to volunteer to change the error message here?
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay. Well, what was your name, sir?
Alan.
Alan. So Alan's gonna, now obviously we can. So the idea of now we're all navigators, so we can be commenting on what Alan's doing and hopefully supporting him rather than abusing him. We're all professionals. Let's support our, as navigators. So right. So I might say so okay. So you're in the Tansaco test thing there. Can you type? I mean, that's a good first thing to check.
I can, but it's not coming out here.
Ah, right. I guess one thing you may not have connection. Let's have a look. I mean, this is the kind of thing. If I gave you a teammate, that's a little bit. Let's see, Alan Jones there says you're online. You're red. Is it appearing on your screen?
No. When I type, nothing comes through.
Yeah, you might want to just reload the. Like one of the things that this is a little bit annoying about Cloud9. If you haven't typed anything into it for a while, the app goes to sleep for you. So if you refresh the browser, I've been kind of like doing bits and pieces of things into it. Yeah, I mean, we could see is it
not someone else?
Yeah, I mean, let's see if anybody can type. Can anybody type? Everybody try and type, and if you see that yourself, type your own name, and then we'll see.
I can type now. You see?
I can see. I saw a D. Somebody started doing def down there.
That's me. But why?
I can type. Okay, is that you now? I can type. Yes. Well, if you can. Well, I mean.
Type the def, but on mine it's above the raise.
Yes. Well, we may be confusing what it's called Cloud9 by having so many. Look at this. I mean, it's also there's those of you who are here in person are on the wireless. I mean, why don't you carry on, Alan? Carry on typing what you're.
I was just going to define a method.
Yeah, no.
In it.
Yes, that's a perfect way to start. So go ahead and do that. If we.
Sum. And so that's got no parameters.
Right, and then do you want to do a save? So you can, I think you can, yeah, there you go. And then you can, I mean, I'll kick off run here and we'll see what happens. So, I'm going to get run again. I think it might be, yeah. So I think it's there. Yeah, and we've also got somebody's got well, in the first instance we've got somebody else's type D at the top there. But yes, I think we're going to have an issue with it being in the wrong order.
So I'll keep my hands off.
Yeah, for the net.
Sam, do you think there is a way to disable this join notifications? Like they're just flooding up my screen.
That would be really helpful, wouldn't it? One could. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is the kind of thing where Mad Eye would be. Maybe next week we'll use Mad Eye, and that will be.
This is really annoying. Like my whole screen is flooded with notifications.
Well, I think if you reduce the size of the screen, they'll pop up, but they'll pop up on the extreme right, and they won't obscure the code the way that they're doing at the moment. But yeah, so.
Okay.
I'll go in there as it's me and Alan like this. And I think, it works much better if it's only 2 or 3 of you. But so even there, it's thinking about saving and run it. But yeah, so there we go. So that's now running, I think, and it's worked there. There's no errors, or at least now. Now we've got a different. Okay. Yeah. Well, I think we're deeply confusing. Cloud9 by having so many. But now we can see so now this is change the error. So Alan, you've introduced max to sum there. We're now getting a different error. So in principle, we could move on to a different person. So the error that we're now getting, and one of the things here about changing the error is it gets you familiar, particularly if you're new to Ruby, it gets you familiar with all of the error messages. And actually, I think the key to understanding any language is to understand the error messages and what they mean. So we've now got max to sum. Their wrong number of arguments. 1 for 0. Does anybody? Anybody who can type. Do they want to shout out their name and see if they can make the change?
I want to type.
You gonna do it, Sam? Pretty? Yeah, go for it if you can. But so here we've got the issue that we are on line 25. We're calling the max to sum method with and we're passing it in an array. And so at the moment here, max to sum, we haven't got any arguments specified. So we've got to put some kind of argument in there in order to get rid of this this error message. So Sam, pretty, you going to type that in for us there? I mean, in some ways, that's great. So you want to save that, and we'll see if we can get that to run again. There we go. Oops. Okay, somebody's done it. There we go. Right. So now we've got kind of the actual, what should we call it? It's kind of, I don't want to use the word stub because we'll use that to mean something else later on, but we've kind of got like a little outline of what the method should be like. And what happened there? I think somebody accidentally did it. So this is the thing that can happen in the parent session. Someone accidentally delete your code. You want good versioning. Git, that's why you need to know Git. That's actually one of the reasons that I absolutely love Git Pong. Once you're familiar enough with Git, everything you do gets pushed through a Git branch, and so you have everything is recorded. I really like that. So now we're getting an error here, and we're getting max to sum. One is so actually there, and we can see this is the problem with me hand rolling this. Is our error message there is not quite as informative as we want to. Really, we want that to be not equal to 1, and if we want that again, once it's saved. It's now basically the corner case is not doing what we want it to do. So, and it's interesting to note here. See this raise method. Basically, it's created a standard runtime error for us, and it's just that exact text that we have in there. Now we run it again. Is popping up. Why is it going really crazy? Yeah, we'll use a different thing next week. But so now, so this is failing. Right, we're raising this error because this corner case that we want is not being met. So one of the things with GDD and also with pair programming is then trying to do the minimal thing that you can to get your test case to pass. So anybody who can type, what's the absolute minimal thing that we could do in order to make this test case pass? Yeah, and I think, rather than to have the hijinks of there, let's just, people could, it's so simple in this case that, the being able to type thing is kind of like a bit of a sideshow. So we'll run that and we'll see it. So that now works, right? So yeah. So you could say this is all like, oh my god, that's so hopelessly slow. slow. That's completely ridiculous. And in most cases it is. When you are, I think, just feeling your way with a new language or with a new library, it's a great way to go to really, really check that everything is doing what you think it's doing. And also to get all of your corner cases and make sure that they all work. And so, we see the thing. So the thing there is, so for example, what was your name? Paul. So Paul, given that you've now made that pass, in the programming process, you would then say, right, you would write the next test case, but rather than putting Cloud9 through its paces there, maybe I just sort of copy and paste and do this. What do you think the next test case should be if we want to start onto this next this next element? We've dealt with this kind of corner case. Oh, we've got another corner case. Maybe let's do it. Yeah. Do you want to how would we modify this test to make this be a test of the other corner case?
Should basically replace the ones with zeros.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Then you can run it and it'll fail. But we still.
Yes, I think we could. And so this is kind of like now the conversation. This is driver navigator conversation. This is all. This is the key stuff. This is what you're having in parent sessions. I would be worried that this isn't a correct assessment of our corner case, because our corner case is saying for an empty array, it should return 0, and so we've still got there. We've got so I think this would be more of the corner case that we want there. And so it's that kind of thing that you kind of for some reason it's displaying in the width. But yeah, we're getting the correct error here. So it's now saying there max to sum is not equal to 0 in this case. And we also know, because it's got to that point, we know that this one is still working, although trivially so in this case. So now we could switch. So Paul there has done. I mean, if we go back to the remote peppering thing, we look at the protocols. This is this process here where Paul has made it work. We kind of skip the refactor step because it's just, how do you refactor a method that just does this? Ideally, before you write the next test, you should be looking for opportunities to refactor to simplify the code, and we'll get on to that more later on. But so here, then you've written tests, you've watched it fail, and now, boom, you stop being the driver, and it swaps over to someone else. Let's go to right there. So can anyone suggest what would be the minimum amount of code that we could add here to make the second test case pass without breaking the first test case?
Just check if the array is empty.
Right. Somebody, if you can type, do you want to do that? So ideally, this is there's this sort of narrative mode that ideally you get into that I think is quite challenging to begin with, is that when you're in a pairing session, ideally, as you do anything, you're also simultaneously describing what you're doing and why you're doing it. And so there's this kind of constant dialogue, which I love and other people hate. But it's,
okay, so basically, if array is empty, then it returns 0, and if it's not, then it returns 1. This is like the ternary operator in Ruby. It's a shortcut version for if and else.
Great. So I'm going to click off the run test. So Sampriti has now done his version of minimum effort to make both of the test cases pass, and it's running the process with to do its own. But yeah, any questions?
When I did mine, I did return 0 if the array empty.
Right. Yeah. Which is, I think. Yeah, this is kind of an alternative. This is one of the things, as I think Dave will be talking about, maybe he's talked about already in the course, is if you're driving the creation of your application code with tests, particularly as you are partway through the test, the application code might look quite strange. Driving with the test is not a guarantee of getting a really good code architecture. And so that's one of the things where the idea of this continuous refactoring, is important in that, and particularly you need to be, as you swap driver and navigator roles, considering these issues of, I mean, particularly while the driver is busy typing, the navigator is saying, like, well, what's the impact on the architecture of the thing that we're building here? And so, I mean, one of the things here is, like, ultimately, once we support the full method, then we may want it overall to look quite different. I quite like that the return sort of if, because there's a way of making that explicit at the start of the method, that it says these are the corner cases that we're just jumping. I mean, a lot of people say that you shouldn't in a method, you should really be returning at the end and not just like at 4 different places. That's not the right way to be coming out of a method, right? Although I think most people concede that if you're going to just like do a couple of things that are like checking of the initial processing of the initial argument and saying, oh, I just can't deal with those arguments return, that's usually an acceptable thing. But yeah, okay. So Sanfredi, did you want to write another test there? Since you wrote the...
Yes.
You wrote the...
Sure.
I mean, well, we could, of course, be looking for anything to refactor. I don't think we can make it much simpler than you've written it there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, the next thing we want to check if it works for 2 values. Like,
right.
So let's just take...
yeah.
Instead of 2, I'll take 3 maybe. 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll just check, like, 1, 2, and 3. So the maximum sum will be 2 plus 3, that's 5.
Right.
And if we run the tests, then it's probably gonna fail.
One thing I'd say there is, and this is me navigator mode, is by having the new test on line 55, if it fails, it prevents 56 and 57 from running. So I'd say a refactoring here, and it's failing for the right reason, is that we might move that down to the end. And that means as we work on this and continue to get it to work, we, we'll know if we break any of our corner cases early. So yeah, so Sanfredi's got, no, I think it's, yeah, I noticed there, so one, this is like, I think we want, maybe I'll just trouble it, so it's not for me. Yeah, this is one of the dangers with the hand-rolled test suites, is here we were sort of relying on our own memory to, make sure that the error messages are matching what they should be. And that's something our spec will have for us. I guess maybe we talked about getting onto our spec. No, I think it's supposed to be returning the sum of the 2 largest elements. So the 2 largest elements in So so Sanfredi's written that test. Does anybody? I mean, does anybody want to? I mean, we could carry on obviously and do the entire rest of this homework, although that's kind of your guys' jobs to a degree. We could also be looking at, I mean, I should probably go fairly soon. We could also be looking at RSpec, which would, and the grader and how the grader works, and talk more about that. Or there may be that people have particular questions about the subsequent. We've got, this is the first part of homework 0. We've then got another thing which is about strings, and then we've got another for the basic class.
Part of the reason I didn't look at the homework is there's a whole bunch of tutorials and videos and stuff like that. Are they optional or mandatory, or how? So actually, they didn't really get into that homework too much because they're general overview type stuff.
You're talking about the Ruby Code Academy thing?
No. I can't but that stuff.
Yeah, right. All of that stuff. Yeah, that's yeah. You're ideally, I mean, we sort of think like sensibly one would work through watching these videos before attempting the. That's. I mean, at least particularly what we've got here. These 3 videos here are Armando introducing the concepts that underpin Ruby, how everything's an object, everything's in a method call, and how OOP works in Ruby. So yeah, so that's fine. As I say,
it didn't seem to have hurt us too much not looking at everything in there.
Well, we've kind of dipped our toe ever so slightly in the very beginning part of. I mean, in principle, if you completed the entire Ruby Code Academy Ruby track, you could get away with, probably doing these things. But I mean, I'd certainly at least, Amanda's worked quite hard to make these videos. You can put them on times too.
No, that's why I was a bit struck that we sort of brutally just ignored those and went straight.
Well, I mean, I guess we sort of ignored that. We didn't so much ignore those as in like these can be watched at your leisure. But I mean, if people.
I haven't done it, but I assume the test some of the content.
Yeah. So, but if we look, I mean, one thing that we've got here at the beginning.
Just look at the homework
someone I'm either talking about jazz.
Yeah, quote marks on the screen and so on. Yeah, I mean,
so
I guess
I'm not going to start with this is a for loop, this is a string. You guys already know that stuff. So this is an intro to Ruby kind of at a high level for people who've taken Java. And in this specific
I always listen to it on times too. It's funny when I talk to them in real life, and I'm like, why are you talking so slowly? Oh, that's right. But so, you know, yeah, watch Armando. And then he'll lead up to, I think this is actually quite a fiendish quiz question that he's got, that it probes your knowledge of regex and Ruby hashes and things.
So we get these after the video?
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, pretty much each video has, and then there's a...
Yeah, they're all in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is, I think, one of the things that I like least about the edX layout is I think you have to kind of manually click through to get to the actual quiz. And we've then got a video that explains the quiz and so on. But I think a lot of people miss that, you know, and a lot of people even like...
I think, I mean, I've Coursera.
Yeah.
Yeah, their platform, I think, for all the...
Yes.
You get ticks and everything done.
I think both Coursera and Audacity have a better setup in terms of also you don't have to do any action to get to the quiz. The video pauses or stops, and you're in quiz mode, and you just click it straight away. I think so. I mean, I guess I think it would be better their way. To be honest, I kind of look down a little bit on the quizzes and even the videos to say I think the most serious learning experiences come from doing the pair programming. But I'm crazy about remote pair programming, and clearly that doesn't. I mean, I think it's great that we've got a variety of materials. You know, people can pick and choose one. So yes, I mean, Sampriti's got to go. Bye. Thanks, Sampriti. Trevor was agreeing that looking at AskBrett might be fun. But Sally's saying quiz mode in Coursera is great. Yes. I mean, we're very fortunate to live in this time when there's so many of these. I mean, it's just, you know, there's an explosion of all this MOOC material, of which we are one of many. But yeah, so let's maybe look at how the Autograder works. I guess what I want, I mean, one might have the question of, okay, so we've been doing all this stuff in Cloud9, or we've been doing it in the VM, or what have you. What we could do in this case, I guess what we would do here, let me just take, shall we, I think we can in fact, if I just comment out this failing test, because I don't want to break the Autograder, I think from within Cloud9, I can I just, I thought there was a save, you know, and deploy it to that thing. Was it with the folder? I can upload to this folder. Well, I think the simplest thing to do is just...
You can download the project.
Right, from somewhere. I don't really need the entire project. I guess actually it looks like we've kind of copied and pasted the entire thing twice for some reason, but that's, we've had a kind of crazy session. Let me grab this part of the project. Let me go and find, this is the thing where I discover if I've got lots of, not too many embarrassing things on there. Let's, I've dealt with that. So that's, let me get this and save that just as a document there. So let me call this homework 0 part1.rb and save that into my documents. Let me then go over to here. So one of the other things that we've got, as you know, there's the homework and so on. We've also got this Autograder here. So the way this works, we can choose files. Let's go and look for documents, homework 0.1 there. We have running on EC2 in the cloud this whole Autograder suite that contains all of the, and this is the result that you'll see if you've got it all correct. I'm hoping to show, hopefully it'll work. Yeah, so that it jumps up here. This basically, there's like a whole huge engineering effort on the background to make sure that everybody's things get graded on time. It should grade within 30 seconds. If it doesn't, try and refresh in the browser. If that's still a problem, get in touch with me. But preferably, don't bring me at home. But ideally, come, you know, start recording it here, and we'll make sure that we get onto it as quickly as we can. These graders do sometimes go down, and I apologize in advance. We're going to keep on it. Right, where have we gone? Is this the right place? No. Wasn't there? Oh, here, right. So, now what's happened there, in the background, some RSpec has been run. I wonder if I can actually just go and quickly find for you the RSpec as it is. If I go and look, which of the public, okay, there we go. No. Okay, so this is the public part. I can just show you, for example, and this has been, some people have posted this into the forums. I think one of the most recent things is on that. So here, this is RSpec, as you've seen before, and it has this particular way of being written, so that it's trying to be written a little bit like English. And so it has, we describe sum. So this is the function sum that we're asked to do in the first instance there. And it sets up and it says, right, sum should be fine. I should be able to call the method sum, passing in an array, and I should expect not to get an error. Right? So that's one thing there. Then it's like, it should also return the correct sum. So it's got a number of tests in here that says, okay, if I call this method with this array, it should be a fixed num. And if I call it there, it should also be 15. And if I, put a minus. So this is, you can, even without necessarily knowing RSpec, you can sort of see what it's doing, right? And then it goes on. And then we've got max to sum and sum to n and so on. So this, actually, so these are the kind of the public specs of which, I guess we don't actually distribute these, but we used to, I know we're still, I'm trying to get all of the specs to be completely public, actually. That would be my preference. I think that would make more sense in the long run. But so what's happening there is these specs and others are being run here. And this review here says basically like, so that sum should be defined. Oh no. I hate that. I've got this hot corner, and if I put my mouse in the hot corner, then it locks me up. Don't do that. It's, oh, goodness. Right, you can see something there. That should be defined there. This should be defined here. Yeah? So on the back end, in the EC2 instance that we've got, it's taking your homework assignment and it's loading that up, and then it's running this spec against it, right? And if this passes, then this will come back without any error and says, right, fine. Then going on here, so I think we correctly implemented. Basically, it did return the correct sum. It, I think return 0 for the empty array. There's a certain number of points that are awarded for having got your code to pass those particular elements of the RSpec, and then going on. So here, max sum should be defined. We defined it. Then it should return the correct sum. So 7 points failed. As you remember, we only got to define the corner cases, but we didn't actually get it working. We can see here from the return 0 if array is empty. That one works, right? It returns 0. This one here, returns value of the element if just one element, actually fails because we hard-coded that to return 1. We didn't actually check the value of the element and return that. So we can see there, return the correct sum works even if the two largest values are the same. They both fail. So we get kind of an overall score from this somewhere that I think is not immediately obvious here. What is it? Let's see.
If you keep going right up to the top of the question.
Yeah, okay, right. So it's telling us we've got 40 so far, and that's the sum of these 20, 10, and 10. So we've got this other outstanding points that we could get if we fix that up. So this is kind of like your summary. Well, what I think is really confusing is it comes back with the green tick. And so you could be forgiven for thinking, yes, it's all right, let's go to the pub. And in fact, that's just edX saying, yes, you uploaded the file successfully. And now here's the response from the Autograder. And then what we actually start to see here is, from all the failures, this is all the RSpec output. And so this, I think, can be extraordinarily confusing in the first instance. I mean, you're just getting used to Ruby, and then, what is this? But I think if you stay calm, actually, the programming, I think, is all about being calm, emotionally calm. It's important. But so here, if we start to read this, so Ruby intro part 1, that's the one we're in. Max to sum, that's our method. So this hash or pound, as we call it in the UK, I think, or I think it's not. No, it's called pound in the US. It's called hash. So this is a way of saying we're testing that method, or that instance method. So it should return the correct sum, 7 points. And then it's giving us detail about failure error, max to sum, 1, -2, -3, -1.5, should have equaled -1. We expected it would be -1, but we got 1. Right? So it's basically telling us what our method did wrong. And then there's this, like, not necessarily so helpful stack trace in this case, because for the point of view of us in the, on the business end of this, we don't have access to the spec. So the fact that that happens to be, that this, if you're in the future working with RSpec in a kind of production environment, whatever, very, very useful information. Right, that was the line number in the file of the spec that actually failed. Here, absolutely useless for your purpose. So in some ways, actually, if we could suppress this bit and you just get this information, that would be it. But I think I don't have to go on and explain this again. You get the basic idea. But I wonder if we look here, part 1 last up there, max sum returns the correct sum. Yeah. So I think these specs are slightly different here. No, but actually you can see there, right? This spec there, as it happens to be on line 19 of that file, that's the one that's failing in this instance, and it's telling us about it. And so, yeah, I mean, then there's all the other ones, and sort of, I mean, ideally, what you do is rather than using the Autograder as a kind of a ongoing debugger, because this costs us money, right? To have these things work. Amazon, they're lovely, but they do charge money for this stuff. So ideally, what you'll do is follow this process here of writing your own tests. We'll move on to actually having you write RSpec as we get to it, to make sure that it all works. And then once you're pretty certain that you've got it doing all the things it should do, is then and only then uploaded to the grader. And you might get, as I think Alan, you were saying, you've done some sort of tests. You had then one extra issue, and then okay, right, I'll deal with that and do another upload. It's they're just slices of things. It's sort of death by 1,000 cuts, really. Ultimately, it's a very, very small thin paper cut. But if we get too many, we'll just collapse.
Is the RSpec downloaded?
The RSpec is
that full?
Well, I think it all should be. I think there is an argument to say that the full RSpec kind of needs to be kept secret. I'm not sure that I understand the motivation there. I believe that someone
you could use it as an excuse to slightly not fully make the program brilliant if you can see you can get away with it.
Well, I think that's the concern. That's the. I mean, somebody here. I mean, I think we did have the Homework 0 stuff for at least these what we might call skeleton specs public in some repos at some point, but I'm not quite sure there are. Someone's posted this. They've also said they're exhaustive. They're not exhaustive. They're not sent to the Autograder. I'm quite happy for them to be there. Yeah. I mean, I think ironically, although it's true, yes, that if you had access to the full exhaustive specs, you might be able to find loopholes in the specs. But to be honest, that's what you're supposed to do, because you find the loopholes, and then that's, at least from my point of view, from this process of things, that's why this process is really important, because you find the loopholes, and I would love everyone to find the loopholes, so we can upgrade the specs and make it harder in the future. You know what I mean? It's so anyway. I think we're in the process of. We had consolidated all of the specs and all of the homework solutions, everything into a single private repo in order to try and maintain their coherence. We've now got set up with this Travis continuous integration that allows us to pull stuff out of public repos and private repos and then mix it up and do tests over it. So I think the requirement for everything being in the private repo is falling away, and we're going to be able to make consistently more of the specs available generally. Although when that happens, will be a function of when I stop talking. Or something like to that effect. Okay. Yeah, Greg's saying have to run. Thanks all. Yeah, I guess we answered. Did we maybe answer? I hope we answered Greg's questions about pair programming and so on. I mean, we were talking about the levels of the different people involved and so on. I mean, I think if you can find a small group of people that you particularly like pairing with, and you can do that throughout the course, that's great. I think there's also a big value of what's called promiscuous pairing, which is which I've been doing. I've been very promiscuous over the last year, and I love it. But it's not for everybody. So there we go. We've still got a relatively full house there. We've got with 17 viewers at the moment. That's the highest I've seen. I don't know if I didn't keep track. What our highest viewer count. That's been 11. Our viewing figures previously. We got up to 11. 17 today. Ooh. We're gradually climbing up that long tail of internet entertainment. Well, let's see what happens next week. Michael says I'm too aggressive when pairing. Thanks, Michael. I pair with him a lot. It's like, well, Michael, maybe you're just too passive. What can I say? Yes. It all depends on how many deadlines are going on. Does anybody else? I mean, we kind of. I think I probably should go fairly soon. Are there any wrap-up questions on any parts of the homework?
That's interesting, that little test, because that looks less stuff I'm familiar with, and I'm very newish to Ruby.
Yes.
That looks less stuff I'm familiar with than in the tests.
Yes. I mean that's an interesting thing. In some ways, the tests have been written with readability in mind, in as much as they're supposed to be maintainable and readable and so on. Armando has written this test here to fox you. It is deliberately confusing to test the boundaries of your knowledge here. So yes, but yeah.
They said if you put on his homework, that always prompt conversation in the actual lecture.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. Yeah. So I don't know if there's any quick questions about there's part 2 dealing with strings and part 3, which is the basic.
So that last bit, find a method, binary multiple.
Oh yes.
Fours. So you've got a string. You have to, so somehow you've got a. That's going to be a string of zeros and ones.
Ones, yes.
And you need to break that out.
Yes.
Work out.
If it's a multiple of 4.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go.
Any good recommendations for Ruby editors? And are we going to end up working on an editor in the VM? Or?
Well, yeah. I mean, the default thing that we've got in the VM, which you may or may not like, is we've got gedit, which is this thing here. Okay. So I think certainly for the early assignments, this is. I mean, I have done all assignments several times in gedit. It's not the most amazing editor in the world, but it suffices. I think one of the key things here is this. I think this is we've got this swings and roundabouts about bringing people into the VM. That means everybody's got the same libraries, but now many people are taken out of their environment that they were comfortable in, and they are in this Ubuntu environment. And so it might take you a while to realize that to get to the text editor options, you have to mouse over here. And then, for example, there's things like, by default, the side panel's not there. I think you really want the side panel set up, and also it defaults to here, so you can see the file system underneath and manipulate it and so on. That's just really handy. Also, you definitely want the line numbers visible, particularly for parent, well, even just for your own sanity, really. And so I think there is preferences here. Display the line numbers. I mean, there's a variety of little things that I think we should. I don't know if we get more than we can build into the default setup of the VM, but yeah, this is going to be reasonable to get you going. I personally, for my Ruby and Rails and stuff, I use RubyMine. Although I realize that means I'm a wuss, and really I should be using Y. And I'm just a sort of southern pifter, as I say in this country. But yeah. Yeah, there you go. But Sublime is good. I mean, yeah, I think in the first, I would say when you're, I think ideally when you're learning a new language, that maybe you're in as a familiar environment as possible. I mean, you want to manage, ideally minimize the amount of novelty that you handle at one. I mean, at one time, one of the things I think many people said about the course is there's a lot of new stuff, and I think many people get overwhelmed with many new things coming to. And then there's Git and Heroku.
There's one part in the video where one intentionally tries to confuse everyone by moving the mouse around whilst explaining the answers to the quiz. It's not the one you showed us, it's the one afterwards. Very difficult for me to describe how confusing that was in chat, but you always have to not watch where the mouse is going and explain it at the same. I mean, in a few years we'll all be floating in a white space, and the knowledge will be being zapped into our heads, and then this is one of these speed bumps on the way there. Yes, we'll look forward to that brave new world. We'll go back to of course, all right. Well, I mean, thanks so much to everybody who was here in the. I think I'm just going and adding people to my acquaintances. Doug Braden from the School of Hard Knocks, apparently. We've got. Who else have we got in here? We've got Stephen Duong. Great to have had you with us. Trevor's still with us here. Vitaly has been along. Michael, my often pairing partner, has jumped in. And yeah, should we wrap it up there? Is there anything else? I think it was about an hour ago that we passed the point that anyone was paying attention. So I hear 24 minutes is the maximum time for these things. I think we've been going for about an hour and a half. So, but it was interactive. Yes, Joshua was saying thanks. Thanks, Joshua. Thanks, everybody, for attending online. We'll do the same thing again next week. This was videoed, I hope, and we make it available to everybody, of course, so you can review it at your leisure. Obviously. Who wants to watch video? Who wants to watch all that stuff from Hollywood when you can rewatch live MOOC office hours from Sam and friends? Goodness me.
There we go. Right, yeah, I think I'll wrap up the broadcast.